Same old, folks. 2025, we have the winners of our four major rugby competitions around the world, with all due respect to the MLR and the Japanese League and whatnot. Looking today at the Premiership, Top 14, Super Rugby, and the URC. What's their history like over the last 4 seasons? Is it pretty much the same old thing at the top and at the bottom? And is that affecting the popularity of the league? As we go through some of the ratings and whatnot, you guys can let us know your thoughts. If we start with the URC, and that's why I've picked 4 seasons to look back on, because that's how long the URC has been in existence. Obviously, it was the Pro 14 prior to that, where Leinster were pretty dominant in the last few years, but Leinster finally got themselves a URC trophy after a few years waiting. It was their first final, but it's an interesting thing about the URC in that 4 seasons in, we have had 4 different winners. Every year, Leinster has kind of gone in as hot favourites and has always kind of stumbled towards the tail end of the season with an eye on the Champions Cup. But this year, they finally got the job done. Prior to them, it was Munster and Glasgow and the Stormers as well. And the Bulls have been the bridesmaid of the URC finals, losing 3 of the 4. So I do feel like it is a healthy state of affairs at the top, that we do have different teams winning it. We've had 4 different winners, 5 different finalists, the Stormers being the other team to lose it. And if you're looking at the ratings for the final, I believe it was up like 4% on last year, so seems to be tracking pretty positively. The one area of concern with the URC is that across every single season, the bottom 2 teams have never changed. Every year, it is the Dragons and Zebre. The only change has been the fact that this year, they swapped places. Every year, it was Dragons second to last, Zebre last. This most recent season, they swapped, but there's not much going on at the bottom of the URC. Those guys are the perennial also rans, basically. Super Rugby has been dominated by the Crusaders for long more than just the most 4 recent seasons, but we are looking at the most 4 recent seasons. Since Razor left, the Blues did sneak in there with 1 win, but it's just been the Crusaders for ages, and they got back to it this year. Many people here in New Zealand complain about the fact that the Crusaders winning it every year is bad for the competition, because people don't want to see the same old winner year in, year out. And to be fair, it is one thing you can look at compared to some of the other leagues, is that the URC, the Premiership, and the Top 14 have seen more finalists than Super Rugby in the last 4 seasons. Only 3 teams have made the final. The Chiefs are kind of filling the Bulls' role here of being the perpetual bridesmaid, having lost to the Blues last year, to the Crusaders this year, and to the Crusaders a couple of years ago. The Blues have lost 1 final in that mix as well. So 3 finalists in 4 seasons, just the 2 winners. It's been pretty hard pickings for anybody else to get into the mix of that top 3. So it is a bit same-samey in that regard. It's less same-samey at the bottom of the table. Moana Pacifica tended to be in the bottom 2, at least for their first 3 seasons of existence. But in this most recent season, Adi Savia having signed for them, they managed to climb out of that bottom spot. But the Drua have been in bottom spot twice. The Waratahs, the Highlanders, and the Rebels, who are now defunct, have all been in that bottom spot. So we have seen more teams at the bottom, 5 teams, filling in those 2 bottom spots. But as I said, there's been nothing to really mix it up at the top. But that being said, this year's final was the best viewed Super Rugby final here in New Zealand in 9 years. It was up 15% on last year. So apparently people are still tuning in to see the Crusaders' dominance over here in New Zealand. The Top 14 final got more viewers than the other 3 leagues combined. They had like over 5 million viewers. It was one of their best viewed finals ever, and it was a cracker of a game. I think of the 4 finals this year, it's probably the best viewing. It goes to extra time. It is a proper bonkers game. But Toulouse certainly dominates the top 14. Again, more than just for the most recent 4 years, but that is the period we're looking at. Montpellier is in there with 1 title as well. What's interesting about the top 14 is more the top and the bottom. Like Montpellier have been champions in the last 4 years, and they've also been in the bottom 4 in the last, bottom 2 in the last 4 years. So there's a lot more going on, like a bit more churn through teams going on at the bottom of the top 14. I think relegation helps that. Like you've had Perpignan in the bottom 2 for 3 of the most recent seasons, but Montpellier's been there, and there's been 4 other teams as well. Biarritz, Brive, Onia, and Vannes have all been in that bottom spot. So there's been the relegation thing, meaning different teams are in that battle every single year, which you feel like adds a bit of spice to the bottom of the table, which the other competitions don't have. Like if you're a Zebre or a Dragons fan, or one of the Super Rugby teams, which is at the bottom, or a Newcastle Falcons fan, which we'll get to in a second, your season's basically over. Probably a third or half the way into the season, and there's not actually that much to play for. So maybe Super Rugby is a bit different because the competition's a bit smaller. You can still genuinely get in mathematically towards the end of the season, but yeah, there's not that much to play for. The European leagues do have Champions Cup qualification spots on the line, if nothing else, but the top 14 really has that cutting edge with relegation, you feel. So yeah, kind of like Super Rugby, and that there's one team dominance. Toulouse are in 3 years in a row now. It was a little bit different this year because no Dupont and other things off the field going on with Toulouse, but yeah, they're certainly a dominant team, but heaps of people still tuned in to the final. And then the Premiership, a bit like the URC, in that it's a real mix of teams at the top. 4 years, 4 different winners. Only the 5 finalists though, so again, kind of similar to the URC. Top 14's only had 5 finalists as well, so that seems to be a pretty common theme. Leicester have both won and lost the final. Bath have both won and lost the final. Saracens have both won and lost the final. And then Sale's the only team amongst the mix who's been in the final, not got their hand on the trophy in the last 4 seasons. But that's, again, a bit of a nice one to see a different team lifting the trophy every few years. And it was Harlequins not that long ago as well. So yeah, the Premiership certainly has that going for it, but the bottom of the league is kind of also, it's Newcastle Falcons. Every year they're either the bottom team, or 4 years ago they were the second bottom team. There's not much going on, sadly, for them on the table. Gloucester's been in the bottom a couple of times, Exeter, and Bath as well. Bath is one that's a bit of a, kind of like Montpellier. They've been at the top and they've been at the bottom in recent times, so a bit more kind of bouncing around, but record viewership for this year's Premiership final as well. So it's one thing, either they're like lying to us with stats because every league seems to have good news about stats viewership numbers being up, but whether it's the same teams winning over and over again, whether it's different teams every year, similar teams kind of at the bottom, or a bit more churn, every league seems to have something going for it. But as I said, if you were looking at the kind of healthiest state of the league at the moment, when the fact that the top 14 final had like 5 million viewers, the next best league domestically doesn't even get 1 million. I mean, in New Zealand we had like 700,000. In a country of 5 million is not too bad. I think the Premiership was just under 1 million, and the URC was like 800,000 or something. So there's still some pretty healthy numbers for finals, but yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Do you think the kind of leagues which have got the same old winners like Super Rugby and the top 14 could use a little bit more variety? Or do you still tune in regardless of what is going on at the top of the table? And how much do you think relegation adds to the top 14 that the other 3 leagues don't have? You guys take care of yourselves. It is the end of the club season for these comps. For now, we get into some international rugby now that we are into July. It's a good time to be a fan. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, folks. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.